Yeah, I was just shooting this again. It's my Ruger LCP. I always mix those up sometimes. This is LC. Oh, wait, no, LCP pistol. And I still love it. It's so easy to shoot. It's like one of the easiest guns to shoot. The recoil is non-existent. To me, it's like shooting a 22, and it shoots straight. It hasn't jammed on me. I've shot it quite a bit. The only time I had a problem is I have got a 15-round magazine. I'm a little bit insane for it, but it works. When I first got it, the spring was all tight, like it was brand new. But you just got to stack them, and then leave it for a couple of days, then take them out, and then problem solved. Because I just shot it with that 15-round magazine. Boom, 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 shooting perfect. Doesn't jam. It's got enough firepower. It's easy to hide. Let's face it, James Bond was right. 380. This size 380 is the perfect carry for day to day. That's why the James Bond character was carried at 380 because it's like probably the best carry to have. If you need a gun all the time, and that's why I carry this because I have my reasons, but I feel like that I want if I can I will carry all the time no matter where to go. Considering the state of affairs today, it's not I'm not alone in this thing, but I think some people get lazy with it because they'll buy themselves they want. Let me say in Idaho, you can't. Where I live, you can't. In Kentucky, or places like Mississippi, which I also lived, you can't, open carry. You got to concealed carry. Well, that's a problem. If you got even like an SD9, like I said, I have. It's just too big. You can carry it sometimes, but it's hard to conceal in the summertime, or even maybe even the fall or the spring, depending on the weather. The wintertime, sure, you wear a coat, you can conceal anything. But in the summertime, I wear shorts. You know what I'm saying? So in the summertime, usually a tank top. So it's like, I ain't concealing much, but you can conceal this. There's no problem with that. So, and I want to be armed all the time. That's just the way I feel. So I got my reasons, and they're good ones. So, But anyway, I think it's just the 380 is just the perfect carry. I still stand by that. Although I am tempted to get a 5-shot 357, and try that too. That's probably the best ultimate carry because it's a no-brainer. You don't have to have it racked. You don't have to rack it. You don't have to worry about is safety on. Is it none of that. I looked at some, and I was going to buy a 38, like a Taurus 30. I don't know. Something about Tauruses, man. Just, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't like them. I don't know what it is. Every time I've had a Taurus in my hand like 4 times, like a brand new Taurus. And I was like, it's like, nah. He's like, no. It's not for me. Not the money, not the, just, no. And I can't find a Smith & Wesson, like I want, at least. So I got to go to a store, a bigger store where I can find a Smith & Wesson I like, or Colt or something, Probably Smith & Wesson would be the best choice. But anyway, in the meanwhile, I stick by my 380. I still think it's 2 thumbs up. James Bond was right, and that's all I'm going to say on it. I may have said it before, but I'm going to say it again. It's one of the best guns you can carry, and if you think otherwise, you're an idiot. That's just my opinion. Sorry to call people names, but I'm not calling your name unless you think it's a bad carry. So, then in that case, you're an idiot. So.